Welcome to the Monsters Among Us podcast. This is Season 2, Episode 10, The Shag Harbour UFO Incident. Tonight, we're heading up to Nova Scotia, Canada, a small fishing village called Shag Harbour, October 4th, 1967. It was pretty quiet usually.
Right, until it wasn't. This is a fascinating case, not your typical blurry light in the sky. We're talking about reports of a large object actually, well, crashing into the water.
Exactly. And what really sets this one apart, I think, is the response. You had official agencies involved almost immediately.
Yeah, the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police were there fast. Then the Coast Guard, even the Canadian Forces, Navy, and Air Force got involved.
And interestingly, later on, the U.S. Condon Committee, the big UFO study group back then, they looked into it too. That tells you something right away.
It does. It suggests that, whatever happened, it wasn't just dismissed out of hand. There was enough there for multiple official bodies to take notice.
Okay, so before this object supposedly hits the water in Shag Harbour, there's actually a buildup. Other strange things were seen in the sky that evening.
Uh-huh. It wasn't an isolated event just over the harbor. There were several reports earlier that night, kind of painting a bigger picture.
Let's start with Air Canada Flight 305. This was earlier, around 7:15 p.m. over Quebec.
Right. Experienced crew. First Officer Robert Ralph, Captain Pierre Charbonneau. They're at, what, 12,000 feet?
Yeah, just over 12,000 feet. And they see this brilliantly lit rectangular object pacing them, with smaller lights trailing behind it.
Pacing their aircraft. And then the really weird part, they reported seeing two explosions near this object. Silent explosions.
Silent. First one around 7:19 p.m., then another a couple of minutes later, just faded into a blue cloud, they said.
Silent explosions near an unknown object reported by commercial pilots.
That's highly unusual. It sets a strange tone for the evening, doesn't it?
It really does. Then, a bit later, closer to the eventual crash site, over Mahone Bay.
Ah, yes, the Dory sighting. Daryl Dory, his sister, their mother.
They saw something large maneuvering over the horizon. Daryl was apparently so struck by it, so baffled, he actually wrote a letter about it the next day. Wrote to the RCAF base commander at Greenwood. Said he'd never seen anything like it.
That personal reaction, writing to the military because you saw something you just couldn't explain, that feels significant.
It shows genuine bewilderment. It wasn't just a, huh, that's odd, moment for them.
And then there's the MV Nickerson, a fishing vessel.
Right, Captain Leo Howard Mercy. Experienced captain. He picked up 4 blips on his radar, stationary, about 17 miles off.
4 blips. And then he and his whole crew, nearly 20 fishermen, they go out on deck.
And they see them. 4 bright objects visually confirming the radar, roughly in a rectangle.
That combination radar detection and multiple visual confirmations by seasoned observers, that's strong.
Very strong. These aren't folks easily fooled by weather balloons or planets. They know the sea and sky, and Captain Mercy took it seriously.
He did. He contacted the Rescue Coordination Center, the Halifax Harbor Master. He even filed a report with the RCMP later in Lunenburg.
He documented it through official channels, again, showing this wasn't just a casual observation.
And one more piece before the main event. Reports around Halifax. About 10 p.m.
Yeah, the local paper, the Chronicle Herald, and radio stations mention lots of people seeing a glowing object over the city.
So you've got pilots, a family, a whole fishing crew, people in Halifax, all seeing unusual things in the hours leading up to Shag Harbour.
It really lays the groundwork. Suggests something significant was traversing the region that night.
Okay, so let's get to the crash itself. Approximately 11:20 p.m. Atlantic time.
This is the core event. Multiple witnesses, at least 11 people initially identified along the shore there in Shag Harbour.
And they all saw pretty much the same thing. A large, lit object flying low, heading towards the harbor waters.
Not just a light, but an object, descending.
And the sounds. People reported hearing a whistling like a bomb falling. Then a whoosh, and finally a loud bang.
Those sound descriptions add a real sense of drama, of impact. It doesn't sound like a gentle landing.
The first people to officially report it were Laurie Wickens and his 4 friends. They were driving on Highway 3 right through Shag Harbour.
They saw it go down, got out, found a better spot to look.
And from that spot, they could actually see an object, still lit, floating out there on the water, maybe 250, 300 meters offshore.
Right. Their immediate thought, quite reasonably, was a plane crash. So Wickens called the RCMP detachment in Barrington Passage.
Which triggered the official response. The RCMP arrived quickly, right?
Very quickly. 2 officers were on scene within about 15 minutes. They saw the light on the water, too, initially.
So they contact the Rescue Coordination Center, the RCC, in Halifax, ask about missing planes. Standard procedure.
Standard procedure, yeah. But here's the twist. While they're coordinating, maybe even before the first rescue boat could launch,
What happened?
witnesses, including the RCMP officers, I believe, saw the light, the object, just sink. It submerged and the light went out. Disappeared beneath the surface.
It sank before anyone could get to it.
Exactly. It didn't break up. It didn't explode on the water. It just went under.
These bizarre. Okay, so rescue efforts still launched, right?
Oh, yeah. Local fishing boats were out there within maybe half an hour. These guys know those waters like the back of their hands.
And they found.
Absolutely nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no bodies, no debris. Zero. For something large enough to be seen crashing and floating, highly unusual.
Then the Coast Guard cutter arrived from Clark's Harbor about an hour after the first report.
Same result. They searched the area thoroughly. Found nothing.
So multiple witnesses see it crash, see something float, see it sink. Local boats find nothing. Coast Guard finds nothing.
Precisely. And then comes the confirmation the next morning.
From RCC Halifax.
Yes. They checked with all aviation authorities. Eastern Canada, New England. No commercial flights missing. No private planes missing. No military aircraft missing.
So the plane crash theory was officially out. Completely debunked.
Which left them with, well, something else. This is when RCC Halifax sent a priority telex to the air desk at Air Force headquarters in Ottawa.
And what did they call it?
They explicitly labeled it a UFO report. Because, once you rule out aircraft, what else is it? It's unidentified.
That's a significant step, an official UFO report designation from the rescue authorities.
It is. And they didn't stop there. Another priority telex went to Navy headquarters, recommending an underwater search for the object.
So the Navy got involved.
They did. Fleet Diving Unit Atlantic was tasked. It took a couple of days to assemble the team and get the equipment there, but they mounted a serious search.
How long did they search for?
3 days. Navy divers combed the seabed in the area where the object was seen going down. The Gulf of Maine, right off Shag Harbour.
A thorough underwater search by trained professionals. And the result?
Their final report was conclusive and quite chilling in its simplicity. No trace of an object was found.
Nothing. After all that, witnesses, initial sightings, the sinking, the official searches, nothing.
It's baffling, which is why the press coverage at the time was so intense.
Yeah, the Halifax Chronicle-Herald had it on the front page. One headline, I think October 7th, was something like, could be something concrete in Shag Harbour, UFO RCAF.
Right. That shows the Royal Canadian Air Force, the RCAF, was genuinely intrigued. They thought this might be the case.
There was even a quote from Squadron Leader Bain, who ran the air desk.
Yeah, he basically said they get hundreds of UFO reports, but Shag Harbour was different. It was one of the few where they felt they might actually find something tangible, something concrete.
That official optimism, it makes the final outcome even stranger.
Totally. Because just 2 days later, October 9th, the Chronicle-Herald headline read, UFO search called off.
And the Navy statement.
That's the kicker. Not a trace, not a clue, not a bit of anything.
Wow. Just complete absence of evidence where evidence should have been. Multiple credible witnesses saw something substantial crash and sink. A multi-agency search involving police, Coast Guard, and Navy divers found emptiness.
It left you with very few conventional explanations. An object seen by many, behaving strangely, impacting the water, sinking without a trace despite an extensive search. It remains one of the most well-documented yet profoundly puzzling UFO incidents on record.
A true enigma from that quiet fishing village. That's the end of the episode. Until next time, some legends are best left undiscovered.